Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I was tagged by Jess from Watch Kitty Shrink for the Where Would I Be Without Weight Loss Surgery tag, which was started by Nirvana. And I've been thinking a lot about this tag, and my first thought was I would probably be at Moe's eating a lot of queso and eating some ice cream from Cold Stone. Probably a Love It cup, peanut butter cup perfection with cake batter ice cream instead of chocolate with added cookie dough mixed in. Yeah, the reason I had this surgery, I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy on October 20th, 2016. I'm about 74 pounds down. My high weight was 265. I'm like 191 last I checked. So, my goal is to get to 165, which is the high end of normal for my BMI. Yeah. The reason I had this surgery was for health reasons, purely. Really, as far as aesthetics are concerned, I think I was kind of in denial about how I looked because I thought I looked pretty alright. And I look back on pictures now and I'm like, whoa, I was really big and I didn't even realize it. I thought I looked just fine. So it really wasn't for aesthetic reasons, definitely for health reasons. My dad passed away when I was 18. He died of pancreatic cancer. But my whole life, or like in my memory of my childhood, he had diabetes. I think he was, I don't remember how old I was when he was diagnosed with diabetes, but I was maybe like, I don't know, 10, 12-ish. And see, my dad was always very physically active. He was a competitive cyclist. He used to play racquetball a lot. I feel like in terms of health, he was solid, like always. Not the type, he was never a runner. He wasn't the type to just like go to the gym and like lift weights, but he would play racquetball all the time, and like I said, a competitive cyclist. So he used to cycle, from like New Orleans to Alabama and back with his friends. So definitely very fit and but big. And physically, I take after my dad's side of the family. My mom's side of the family, they're all like tiny and petite. I definitely have always looked like my dad. I think I take after his side completely. But anyway, so as a kid, when you're a kid, you kind of think your parents can do no wrong. You think everything's fine. And I was never aware of his like health choices the way I would be now. And, he passed away when I was 18, so I was maybe barely at the beginning of adulthood at that point. So as a kid, you think everything's fine and normal and good, but I mean, he was big. But he was like solid, He had like a big belly, but it was like hard. It wasn't flabby. I don't know why. His legs were super, super strong, and I don't know. I thought he was in good health, and then he was diagnosed as diabetic when I was, like I said, kind of young. I don't remember him being like really into sweets, but he was really into fruit and fruit juices. and I remember he was diagnosed as like borderline or pre-diabetic, and the doctor basically told him like, just cut out the fruit juices and you'll be fine. And he didn't because whatever. And then he was diagnosed as diabetic. And I guess it was never that bad because he didn't ever have to do insulin injections. He was just taking pills, I guess metformin, I'm not sure. So then our house like quickly became a sugar-free household and no more fruit. And then life went on, right? That was just it. I don't remember him like losing a lot of weight. I mean, my mom was always on Weight Watchers and like try to cook healthy, and I don't know, maybe it was like up and down. And I guess if I think about it, his goal was kind of always to lose weight, but I don't remember him ever like actively dieting, I don't know. And then when I was in 8th grade, he had to have open heart surgery. He had a couple, like maybe 3 or 4 blockages in his heart. He never had a heart attack, but he was having chest pains, and they went and did the tests or whatever. They did an angiogram and saw there were a lot of really severe blockages, which means he had probably been having symptoms for a while and, I don't know, ignored them or didn't want to complain. He really was not like a complainer about physical things at all. Like if I don't know. Like, I remember nothing about. I remember he used to keep like a Pepto-Bismol in his truck. I guess if his stomach was upset, he would just take some and move on. And like, I don't know. I never really ever remember him complaining about anything physical. So he must have been having chest pains, I guess. You don't get to have like several major blockages in your heart without feeling that coming, I think. But anyway, so he had open heart surgery, and they replaced the aortic valve in his heart, which had calcified, and did, I think, 3 or 4 bypasses in his heart. So that was a really big deal. Obviously, that's an incredibly serious surgery to recover from. Very, very delicate, very difficult. And I was, like I said, 8th grade, so maybe I was like 12 or so, and it was really, really stressful for our family. And I'm an only child, so just me and my mom. And he was in the hospital for a long time. But he came through, everything was fine, totally fine, like back to normal, back to life. I don't know if my parents did this on purpose or if this is just the way he was, but it almost seemed like a non-event after it happened. You know, it was like life was back to normal. He went back to work. Everything was fine. It wasn't even like, oh, my life is so much better now, or like I feel different. I don't remember any of that. And I also don't remember his diet changing much. I think he was 5'11", and he probably weighed, I know he weighed between, like 220 was his lowest adult weight, I think. And he would get up to like 250 sometimes. So he was like between 250 and 220, which I realized that was pretty heavy. But anyway, after his open heart surgery, everything just kind of went on as normal. And then 3 years later, he had to have another open heart surgery because the valve that they had put in his heart had come loose somehow. The stitching had come loose. So no more blockages or anything, but they had to repair the valve, which at best is incredibly unlucky, because it's a really serious surgery to have to do again, right? I mean, if you're somehow not familiar with open heart surgery, I mean, they like cut you from like all the way down the chest. They like crack your ribs open, pull your heart out, do whatever they're gonna do, put your heart back in, stitch you up. Like, it takes a long time to recover from this. So yeah, that happened a second time. And then, like, what, 2 years after that, maybe, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and died 6 months later. Like, bam, super fast. And I remember when he was diagnosed, I thought we all thought he was in perfect health. Everything was fine. He had no symptoms. He had like a persistent stomach ache, basically, and that was it. And went to the doctor, and they like did some tests and found out he had a tumor like the size of a grapefruit. Holy shit, how does that happen without anybody noticing? And it had already metastasized and everything. So they did a surgery to like try to remove some of it, but it was too late. So he did, I guess, a couple rounds of chemo and radiation. But I mean, pancreatic cancer, the chance of living past 1 year is like 4%. It's super low. And the chance of living past like 5 years is 0. So, it's not the kind of cancer you survive, and we knew that. And they said he had 4 months to live, but he lived 6. So that was good, I guess. But, I was so young, and now that I'm older, I realize how much of that was probably affected by his weight. And maybe not directly, but it sure as shit doesn't help. As far as the diabetes diagnosis, probably directly because of his weight and his food choices. The heart things, yeah, definitely because of his weight and carrying all that weight in his abdomen. And the cancer, who knows? There's no, like, pancreatic cancer is one that they really don't have known causes for, but they definitely see correlations. Obviously, people who have higher weights are more likely to get it, and people who are diabetic are more likely to get pancreatic cancer. So, yeah, I guess because I was so young, and like I said, you kind of, when you're a kid, you think your parents know what they're doing. you think adults know what's right, and you don't. I never thought of food choices as being wrong. We were definitely the kind of family who would like go out to eat all the time, like many nights a week, and come home and like feel so full. I remember laying on the bed next to my dad and like both just like groaning in pain because we had eaten so much, but that was such a good feeling. That was like a happy memory for me, So anyway, my point is, when he was first diagnosed with diabetes, the doctor definitely told me and my mom, that that was something I would always have to be careful about because obviously some things you're genetically predisposed to and some things you kind of exacerbate with your lifestyle and diet. But with my dad having diabetes, I was more likely to get it. And so just to kind of keep an eye on that, be careful with your life choices in general. You say that to like a 10-year-old kid and you're like, all right, cool. My dad was in his 60s when he was diagnosed, so I figured type 2 diabetes, that's something that like old people get. I've got a lot of time to get my life right. I don't know, to before I have to worry about that. Fast forward to Christmas of 2015, very recently, 10 years after my dad died, right? He died in 2005. In December of 2015, I went to my doctor just for my regular blood work, yearly checkup, as I always do, and I was diagnosed as diabetic. I was 29 years old, which was literally the day I said, okay, I'm having weight loss surgery, like today, like right now, please, because I had struggled with my weight all of my adult life, and probably it really got worse after my dad died. I mean, in those like 6 months while he was sick, I gained over 50 pounds, and then like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, but always up, 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 up in the end. I mean, it was obviously a really traumatic life experience for me, but to get diagnosed as diabetic at the age of 29 was unbelievable to me. Like, I did not think that people under 50 could be diagnosed as type 2 diabetic. Like, I just didn't think that was possible. I was totally in shock. And I just realized that that was the path, that was how my dad's everything started, except he was in his 60s, and here I was at 29. So just doing the same thing to myself, except 35 years sooner. And I got married pretty recently, like 4 years ago. I don't have kids yet, but I think about like, I want to live a long time to be with my husband and maybe kids someday. And I definitely don't want to shorten my lifespan due to things that I can control, like my food and my weight and my lifestyle and my exercise and my fitness. I don't want to do that if I can help it. So, where would I be without weight loss surgery? Well, diabetic for one, kind of not caring probably for two, I don't know, thinking I was invincible for a long time. I mean, I was overweight for so long before this happened, before I was diagnosed. 10, 15 years of being obese and thinking like, I don't know, it's weird to say I thought I was invincible, but I certainly didn't think I was like ever going to be seriously ill because I felt fine. I exercise on occasion. I'm not the sort of person who was like, oh, I never left the house, I never did anything. I did stuff all the time. I was totally active. We'd go hiking. Like, I never felt restricted by my weight. And so I would continue to be obese and continue to lead an unhealthy lifestyle that would probably eventually result in an early death? I don't know. I don't know, but not good. So that's where I would be. Anyway, this tag is going around, but if you haven't done it, tag your it. I have really enjoyed seeing everybody's videos, so I will talk with you soon. Okay, thanks. Bye.